My Wednesday morning group. In the last lesson we looked at Excel spreadsheets, and this is kind of more or less where I left it, and we're going to be looking at more about spreadsheets this Wednesday, which is Wednesday the 20th of March. We're going to be formatting some more cells, but we're also going to be looking at some of the other functions that a spreadsheet can provide for us. Okay, so if we were in a document, we might be able to say, go to home and insert a new document, or create a new document to see if we go to file and new and things like that. But we don't necessarily need to do that if we just need to do some quick calculations. We can just click on the plus sign at the bottom here, and that plus sign will give us a new sheet. Okay, so there's a whole new sheet, and I'm just going to make it easier to read. Okay, so we can also name the sheet. So if we click on the sheet, double click there, and then we can name this, for example, electricity. Okay, and then if we click into a cell, and that sheet is now called electricity, so we know what this one's about. And let's say we want to call this one expenses. And there we go. So we've got a new one called expenses. Now let's say, for example, we want to see how much money we're getting, how much money we're spending, how much money that's left over on our monthly budget. So I'm just going to pluck some figures out of the air here. I have no idea whether these are going to be accurate or not, but it's just for guidance really. So let's say the first person in the house earns £1,157. Okay, and then there's another person earning, and they bring in £857.32 a month on average. Okay, imagine that there's children, so you're going to get, I don't know, £27.53 for the child allowance, and you might get working tax credits, I've no idea. 437.11. Okay, so this gives us an idea of how much money we're bringing in. Okay, so here we might put in gas, and that might be £23.11. Okay, so here we might have electricity, and we're going to do that at £43.98. Water, as I say, I'm just making these figures up. Council tax. I don't know what that would be. That's probably going to be quite a lot, isn't it? And let's say TV license. That's, I don't know, £12.11, something like that. Okay, so we can label these as well. Wage 1, wage 2, child allowance, and working tax. So what we want to do now is add up the different amounts and then subtract what we're getting to our expenses. Okay, so if I click on this cell here, and if I hold down the shift key and select a cell a bit lower, so let's say this one in 11, and then do a left click, just a normal click, all those cells are highlighted. Now what we can do is, just to make it easier for us, if we look in the top right hand corner, we can see like the Greek sigma logo. We see that there. If we just click on that and that will add all of those things together for us. Okay, so that's how much money we're bringing in. That's all those figures added together. So I'll just do that again. So I'm going to select, tax credits. Okay, so I'm going to select that cell. Just select a cell, doesn't matter which one, whether we want the answer to go down below it. And then I'm just going to click on the auto sum, and that will add those together for us. And we're now going to work out our outgoings. Now we could do the same thing, but if we actually click on this cell here and look, it tells us how to do that formula. So we could use the auto sum, and this is for the people who are feeling more advanced and feel that they could do this themselves. Okay, so if you're not confident enough to do it, that's fine. The auto sum is by far the easiest way. But what we can do is we can say equals, because do you remember, to do a mathematical equation we have to put in an equals, and then the sum of all these cells added together. So I could type in the cell number, for example it's F2, or I could select that cell, then I put a colon in, which is the two dots above each other, and choose the final cell, and then I close that bracket, I hit enter, and it does the same thing. It adds them all together as if you were doing the auto sum. So I'll do that again. So equals the sum, and we need to put it in brackets, of that cell, which is F2, to the final cell, which is F6. I can type that in, and you can see it's highlighted them all, and oops, look at that, I've got it wrong, because it's highlighted them all. I know that I've missed out TV license, so I can delete that and put in F7, close the brackets, hit enter, and we find out what our outgoings are. So here we can then do a basic sum, which is equals how much we're getting in, and subtract how much we're having to spend on bills and the like. Okay, so that leaves us with £2,216.86 in profit, and we might want to work out how much that is per month, per week, so we can figure out what our weekly budget is. So if we put that month and then week, so simply we would put a sum that says equals that amount, and actually choose the cell. Don't write the number in, choose the cell, because if that number changes then it makes it easier for us. We don't have to do any more calculations. And then the divide symbol, if you remember, was the slash, and we want to divide that by 4 because there are 4 weeks in the month, and that means we've got £554.21.5 to spend. But because this is currency, what we can do is it just looks like numbers, and of course we can format it like we did in the previous lesson. But what we're going to do now is we're going to make this into so it looks like pounds and pence essentially. So I'm going to highlight all of these cells. We're going to click on the first cell, press the shift button, hold down the second cell, and you remember how we did the formatting in order to make the cells look nice. So we're doing a right click, and we're going to click Format Cells again. But in this instance, where it says number, we're going to choose currency to 2 decimal places, which is how we do it. So we're just going to choose currency and click OK. And now we've got the pound sign in front of them, and it actually looks like money, and they've even stuck in a comma, so we can see it's 1,157. So we can do that with all the cells that are currency, and so we can format cells, go to currency and click OK, and we can do that for these two. Format cells, click on currency, click OK, and now they all look like pounds and pence, which is how we're used to seeing them. Now if we go back to our spreadsheet on electricity, so simply going down to the bottom here and clicking back on the electricity one, these are also monetary figures. But what I would suggest is, when we're looking at these tariffs here, if we did it as currency, it would round it to the nearest amount. So for example, that would be 20 pence per unit, and that would be 15 pence per unit, and that's not strictly accurate. So I would leave those cells as they are, because they've got more than 2 decimal places after the 22 pence, say, so 22.42 pence. Okay, so don't change them to currency, because we want that to be spot on accurate. But this will work it out for us. So I'm clicking on the first cell, holding the shift, clicking on the final cell. I'm going to do the right click, no I'm not, format cells, choose currency, click OK, and that looks more like pound, shilling and pence. So I'll show you what I mean with this one here. So say for example it's 20.48 pence. Now if I was to choose that cell and format it as currency, so instead of it saying 20.48, come on, format cells, instead of it saying 20.48, if I change that to currency, it changes it to 20 pence, which isn't accurate. If we go back, it gives an idea so that we can see it as represented compared to all the other tariffs. And of course we can also do the same for these. So we're going to highlight all the cells using the click the first cell, hold down shift and click the final cell. Come on. Right click, format cells, currency. Okay. If you did notice, when I changed these, even though it went down to 2 decimal places that we can actually see instead of the 4, it didn't change the prices, but it didn't really give us a fair example of what they actually were. Okay, so you wouldn't be able to compare 2 very similar amounts. Let's say, for example, this one and this one. So 18.8, 18.55, that's going to now be 18, that's going to be 19, but they would be, they're quite close. Let's click on currency. We see 18 pence, 19 pence, whereas that isn't a fair representation of that, because they're very close to being the same amount, 18.8, 18.55. So that's some of the formatting we're going to be looking at. Let's go back onto this spreadsheet again now. So we've done the expenses, but let's say we have a bunch of numbers, and I'm just going to choose 23, 19, so here we have a bunch of numbers, and we'd like to know what the average is. So let's say it's, I don't know, sales of cakes or something along those lines. So we want to know on average how many we're selling per week. What we can do is we can type in equals, like we did with all of them, but instead of typing sum, we can type in average. Yep. And we can open the brackets, choose the first cell, which is this one, H3, colon the final cell, close brackets, or we could just open the brackets, click on the first cell, hold the shift button down, click on the final cell, so we don't actually have to type the cell references in, close the brackets, and it will tell us on average we are selling 28.857 cakes per day. And that must mean we're working a Sunday because there's 11 numbers there. So we might want to think about that if we were, thinking how many cakes do we need to bake for the next day, how many have I got left over from today, that kind of thing. Obviously there are lots of uses for any of these. So also mathematical things we can do, equals mean, and or median, I should say. I would say they're Americans. Okay, so we've got all those functions. We've got average, median. So these are, obviously, as you start to type in, if you noticed, you can see all the different ones that are available, the formulas that are available. So we might want to type in, I don't know, you can pick a letter at random and it'll come up with what functions are available. Yep. Sum, we've done sum. Okay. Yep. Which is the longest, which is the largest, things like that. But that's just overcomplicating it for now. So let's just do, so we've got, this one is the median, the average number. So that is the middle number, I should say, of them all. And then average equals bracket average. Oops, sorry, I'm around. Average. Okay. Getting too excited there. Open the brackets. Click on all the cells. Close the brackets. Average. Yep. So there we go. These are some of the functions. Also mode. I don't think we're going to get a mode, are we? But these are just the standard mathematical operators, mean, median, mode. Mode, yep. And then we would open the brackets, select the cells, close the brackets. Yep, but it's not applicable because we haven't got two numbers that are the same. Okay, so if we change that to 11 again, there we are. Okay, so it's going to tell us that the mode, the most popular number is 11. That's it. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week on Spreadsheets. And I'm going to go into better detail and explanation on Wednesday. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at saving it. Okay, so making sure that we can keep a copy of it. So we'll be going to File and Save As. But because I'm using this on a different type of computer to you, I'm not going to show you this now because this is a Mac and not a Windows computer. It'll be slightly different, don't want to confuse you, so we're not going to be doing that. And also I'm going to explain to you how this file structure works. And then we're going to be emailing each other with our spreadsheets, and then we can each critique each other's spreadsheets. Okay, so that's it for now. I will see you on Wednesday.